Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurudina Taranam Parmanandam Madhavam. All glories to the assembled devotees. So Sayan Prabhu kind of gave me the choice of the topic, and I picked this one because it happens to be something that I am reading about quite a bit these days, something that I've been meditating on. Then we speak about Lord Shiva around Shivratri. But Lord Shiva is a topic that is always relishable. So I'll speak for maybe 35-40 minutes, and then we can have any discussion on that. So there are overall there are 5 tattvas. There is the Vishnu Tattva, which is Krishna and his Swamsha, his incarnations, expansions. There is Shakti Tattva, that is emanating from Srimati Radharani and gopis and manjaris. And actually, it's said that almost all the devotees, they are under Shakti Tattvas, especially the eternally liberated, the Nitya Siddhas. And then there is Jiva Tattva, and that's where we come. And then there is the Jara Tattva. So Jara Tattva is material nature, that which does not have consciousness. And then there is a 5th Tattva that stands by itself, that is Shiva Tattva. And Acharyas say that it's one of the difficult tattvas to understand, because Lord Shiva, he is one of those personality that actually spans everything. He is Vishnu Tattva, he is Jiva Tattva, he is Shakti Tattva. So difficult to understand him. Conceptually, we can understand that Lord Shiva is so anxious to serve the Supreme Lord that he does not worry about tattvas. He said, let me not worry about Vishnu, Jiva, Shakti, all that. Whatever way that I can serve the Lord, he assumes that position. So in Brahma Samhita, it's explained that so there's the famous verse that describes the structure of the creation. Golokanamane nijadhamane talichatasya devi mahesha haridhameshu teshu teshu tete prabhava nichaya vihitischayena govindamadi purusham tamam bhajami. So Lord Brahma is describing the structure of creation. Golokanamane. At the very top is Golok, where there is Krishna in his 2-armed form. And then he says, Devi Mahesha Haridhameshu. And then he goes from bottom to top. So right at the bottom is Devi Dham, where we live, material world. On top of it is Mahesh. And then after that is Haridham, which is Vaikuntha. So the abode of Lord Shiva exists both in the spiritual world and the material world. So in the Brahma Jyoti, above the Viraj river, in the spiritual world, there is Sadashiva Lok. And there, the presiding deity is Sadashiv, the original Lord Shiva. Now Sadashiv is Vishnu Tattva. He is an expansion of Lord Narayan. He is actually an expansion of Sankarshan, and completely in the category of Vishnu Tattva. So he is also known as Ishan over there.
What is that, Prabhuji? Sorry, I didn't catch the name that you mentioned about Sadashiva. What is he called?
He's also called Ishan, I-S-A-N-A.
Ishan. Oh,
He's also called Ishan over there. And his loka is on the northeast corner of Vaikuntha. So those who worship the Lord in that form, they go to Sadashiv Loka. And as Vishnu Tattva, his associate is an expansion of Lakshmi Devi. So he resides over there in a completely spiritual realm. He's called Sadashiv, which means Sada means eternal. So spiritual is eternal, material is transient. Now there is a lower part of Sadashiv Lok that is called Mahakal Loka. And Mahakal Loka is in the material world. So in the Brahma Samhita, it is, and Lord Brahma says that it is presided by Shambhu, another name of Lord Shiva. So how does Lord Shambhu appear? Who is Lord Shambhu? So we have established the original identity of Lord Shiva as Sadashiva. Now, when the process of creation is happening, and that's an elaborate process in itself, we won't go into the details, but one of the things that happens in the process of creation, which is actually the very beginning of the process, is the glance of Mahavishnu. So when Mahavishnu desires to create, he glances at his wife, Rama Devi, who's Lakshmi Devi. Now that glance itself is very powerful. So we all have experience with glances, right? The glances can be very, very potent. There are disciples who say that I was sitting in Prabhupada's class and I was thinking like this, and then Prabhupada glanced at me. And then when he glanced at me, everything looked okay. It looked like all my troubles, all my doubts were driven away, just a glance. No, Prabhupada didn't say anything. He didn't make any gesture. He just glanced. Even in the material perspective, as children, we know, right, that you're being naughty, your mother glances at you and the child knows he's in trouble. Just a glance, nothing more, right? The glance carries so much potency. So when Mahavishnu decides to create, who does he glance at? He glances at his wife. And Srila Prabhupada says that before that glance, before the glance, the wife is inactive in a way that she's not connected actively. Now, when she gets the glance, the first thing at the glance is Ichha Shakti, the desire of the Lord to create. So she takes this glance and gives it to Mahamaya or Durga Devi or Maya Shakti, different names. Now, this glance is personified by Lord Shambhu. So in addition to Ichha Shakti, the glance has two more things. The glance has the element of time in it, because we know that time is absent in the spiritual world. So when Mahavishnu wants to create the material world, then he has to introduce the concept of time. So that's why it's called Mahakala. So this is time in its destructive potency. Time is there in the spiritual world, but there it is in the constructive perspective. A morning, time to worship Krishna in a certain way. Afternoon, different. Night, different. So time is used in the service of Krishna. And there is no death, of course. In the material world, there is only one function of time, and that is destruction. So some people say that, well, by time, people are being born also. And Prabhupada would say that there is nothing like birthday.
Oh.
There is only death day. Because the moment the person is born, what is happening? Person is dying. Every breath that he takes draws him one breath closer to his death. So Lord Shiva, he embodies this time element. So the Trishul that Lord Shiva carries represents time. The 3 points of the Trishul are past, present, and future. And what is the function of the Trishul? It's a weapon. It kills. That's what time is doing. It's killing. The third thing that is there in the glance, so we said there is Ichha Shakti, there is Kal. The third thing that is there in the glance is us, the Jivas. So Maya Devi, she is only matter, right? We said she is the fifth Tattva, Jara Shakti, Achara Shakti, only matter. Now, in order to get this material world into motion, the Jivas have to come. Ultimately, that's why the world is being created, for the Jivas. It's not the other way around. It's not that there is the world created and Jivas enter, but because there are Jivas, it's not that the king creates a prison for the criminals, but because there are criminals, the prison house is created. Because there are Jivas who are rebellious, the material world is created. So those Jivas who have continuing desires to enjoy separately from Krishna since Anadir, since time immemorial, they are in some cycle, they are there at the end of the universe, they go back to the body of Mahavishnu, and now through the glance they come back again. So that is why Lord Shiva is called Vishwanath, because ultimately it is Lord Shiva who is uniting with Maya Devi. So sometimes when we try to understand the symbolism of Shiva Linga, one of the explanations is this, that it is the union of the Purush and Stri, of the dominating and the dominated. It is through that the material world comes into existence. So this is the second form of Lord Shiva, which is, at least in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma calls him Shambhu. Not necessarily that's his only name, but for the purpose of distinction, he calls him Shambhu. Now, when the material world is created, then Lord Shiva comes in again. So when Garbhodaksha Vishnu, I'm assuming that people know about the personalities I'm talking about. So when Garbhodaksha Vishnu, this is before the actual creation of the universe begins. The universe is empty, Garbhodaksha Vishnu enters, and then from the right comes Brahma, from the left comes Shiva, and no, from the left comes Kshodasha Vishnu, and from the center comes Shiva. Now this Shiva is Shakti Tattva. He's not the same Shiva who comes from the eyes of Brahma. Because later on we have this pastime that now Brahma is there, he's trying to create, the 4 Kumars come, and they are unable to follow the instructions. So then out of anger, the Rudras come. So those Rudras are Jiva Tattvas. But the Shiva who is created as one of the first entities in the universe, that is actually coming from the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So that is why essentially it is understood that this whole universe is running under the control of Lord Shiva. So we have Lord Sadashiva in the spiritual world, we have Shambhu, we have Shankar, who typically is shown as sitting on a bull with a trishul, and then we have the 11 Rudras. The 11 Rudras.
Sorry, Prabhu, to interrupt, but can you just go over this again, like Shakti, Tattva, Shiva, and like all those three different types?
So we have the Sadashiv, who is Vishnu Tattva, and then Sadashiv, then he is expanding as the glance of Mahavishnu, and that is Shiva Tattva, and also considered to be Shakti Tattva. Shakti Tattva is a little different from Jiva Tattva because they are directly the energy, like Nanda Baba, Yashoda Mai. They are all Shakti Tattva. They Jivas, they can be they can fall. Shakti Tattvas, they can't fall. They are eternal associates of Krishna. Now, from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Lord Shiva again comes at the time of at the dawn of the creation. He is also Shakti Tattva. And then from Brahma comes the 11 Rudras. They are generally considered to be Jiva Tattvas. Now, one can take the position of Rudra, just like one can take the position of Brahma. It's said that if one lives a perfect life for 100 lives, you become Brahma. And more so, you can become Rudra. But you can't take the position of Shiva. Just like we can't take the position of Yashoda and Nand Baba, we can't take the position of the gopis. We can become the servants, which is what we want to do, but we can't take their position. Once somebody asked Prabhupada this question, that Krishna is already being served, what will we do? There's already Radharani, there is already Ashtagopis and so many Manjaris, and who will I be? And Prabhupada said, well, you'll be serving somebody who serves somebody who serves somebody who's serving them. That's a position, das. And initially we look at the pastimes of Krishna and we say that, okay, I'm going to be dancing with Krishna. Maybe we will, who knows? But essentially we will be serving somebody who is serving somebody. So like I said, the Trishul of Lord Shiva, it represents time, because it is through the time that Lord Shiva, he rules the world. It also represents his mastery on the three modes. The Lord Shiva has a difficult position to understand again, because he's at the margin. It's like if you jump into the ocean, there is water, and then you can say this is water. If you step out of the ocean, there is the land. You can say this is land. But how do you clearly understand the point where the water and the land is meeting? It is water and it is also land. So Brahma tries to explain it in Brahma Samhita, saying Shiram yatha dadi vikar vishesha yoga sanjayate nahi tatha samupeti karya yah shambhutab api tatha govindamadi purusham tamam. So it gives the analogy of Shiram yatha dadi, that milk and yogurt, they're the same. Because when you make yogurt from milk, you don't really add anything else. Like when you're cooking, then you add something and then you get a different dish, but nothing. The only thing is that there is the action of the acids. So milk and yogurt are exactly the same, but with one difference. Milk can become yogurt, yogurt cannot become milk. So Lord Vishnu becomes Shiva, but Lord Shiva cannot become Lord Vishnu. And he does not want to become. So Lord Shiva has this position of being very, very attached to the service of Lord, to the very understanding the service of Lord Krishna. So we see that in so many places. And in order to acknowledge this, Lord Vishnu or Krishna, he goes out of his way to glorify Lord Shiva. So in the Bhagavatam, we have this famous verse, Nimnaganam yatha Ganga, Devanam Achyuto yatha, Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu, Purana nam idam tatha. Bhagavatam is actually trying to glorify itself, that Purana nam idam tatha, that of all the Puranams, this is the best. But then it is using this parallel analogy technique that what else? Nimnaganam yatha Ganga. Of all the rivers, Ganga is the best. Devanam Achyuto yatha. Of all the devas, Krishna is the best. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Of all the Vaishnavas, Lord Shambhu is the best. And he has his Rudra Sampradaya. The Sampradaya is that one of the 4 Sampradaya is coming from Rudras. He is one of the 12 Mahajans, people who can understand the Vaishnava philosophy completely. And in the Bhagavatam, we see the Rudra Gita. The Rudra Gita is the song that was taught by Lord Shiva to the Prachetas, the sons of Prachinabari. So they were going there to worship Shiva. And Lord Shiva said, let me tell you something else. And he gives them the Rudra Gita. And they attain perfection through that. So we can talk a little bit about some of the pastimes of Shiva. I wanted to get the Tattva part ahead. It's a little bit philosophical. And of course, we have some very sweet pastimes of Lord Shiva also, which also exemplify the Tattva. But I'll take a break over here and see if we have any comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam, All Grisha Prabhupada. I just was thinking about you saying that Rudra is one of a Jiva Tattva, right? And one of the Sampradayas is Rudra Sampradaya, not Shiva Sampradaya, right?
Oh, so your question is that, is it coming from the 11 Rudras? Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know. I haven't read anything that indicates that the Rudra Sampradaya is coming from the 11 Rudras. Everything that I read tells me that it's coming from Lord Shiva, the origin of the Rudras.
Okay, thank you.
Prabhuji, then you mentioned about 5 tattvas. So where does the Guru Tattva goes in these 5?
Guru Tattva is not really... So Guru Tattva, according to some acharyas, is non-different from Shiva Tattva.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And the reason is that so what is Sankarshan, the predominating deity of, right? So when Krishna expands into the Chaturvyuha, mm-hmm. and Vasudeva is the predominating deity of Shuddha Sattva, mm-hmm. right? And Pradyumna is the predominating deity of mind, mm-hmm. and Anirudh that of intelligence. Mm-hmm. Sankarshan is the predominating deity of Ahankar. Uh-huh. So Shiva, who's expanding from Sankarshan, is the predominating deity of Ahankar. The snakes that are there on Lord Shiva's body are Sankarshan, and he's worshipping Sankarshan. Now, what does the Guru do? Ahankar is false ego.
Breaking
the whole material world is established on false ego. Right? So, what does the Guru do? He
the false ego.
Exactly. He breaks our false ego. It's also mentioned that this pastime of Samudra Mantram that you're aware of. So what does Lord Shiva do in Samudra Mantram?
He drinks the poison.
Right. There is the ocean being churned. Everybody is looking for nectar. And what comes?
First poison comes and
the halal poison comes. And Lord Shiva, he takes that poison. That's what the Guru does. We are going in our material life looking for happiness. What are we getting? We are getting distress. And what the Guru says is, let me take away your distress so that you can enjoy the real nectar. So in a more, this I have heard from my Guru Maharaj, and this I've also heard Srila Prabhupada say, that the Guru actually takes away all the sins of the disciple at the time of initiation. Right. So that's all the poison that we're carrying since time immemorial, and the Guru takes it from us. That's what Lord Shiva is doing. He takes the poison and he allows us to partake of the nectar. It's also mentioned in the pastime of Sagar Manthan. So sometimes people say that he got the name Nilkant because he held the poison in his throat. But at least the Vaishnavacharyas, they say not really. Because Lord Shiva, he is too powerful to be affected by poison. So what can halal poison do to Lord Shiva? Why does he have to hold it in his throat? He has no need to do it. He can digest everything. But the Nilkant in his throat is Nilmani, which is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Krishna is blue in color. And because Lord Shiva is constantly chanting Krishna's name, then that is the Nilmani. That is the blue line on the throat of Lord Shiva. So we see this very, very sweet reciprocation that happens between Krishna and Shiva. That Krishna is anxious to glorify Shiva. So in Sagar Manthan, the demigods were praying in front of Lord Shiva, please drink this poison, please drink this poison. Amongst those demigods, who is also present? Ajita, Lord Vishnu. He's praying to Lord Shiva, please drink this poison. Right? Sometimes the Shaivais, they use this as an example to show Lord Shiva's supremacy. But this is just the reciprocation. That Krishna is happiest when his devotees are glorified. So Lord Shiva wanted to show the glories, Lord Vishnu wanted to show the glories of Lord Shiva. And so we see that in Vrindavan pastimes also. That some demons come, Krishna kills. Some demon comes, Krishna says, Balram, you kill. Not because Krishna is not able to kill them, but he wants to glorify Balram. And when there is thunder in the house, what does Krishna do? He runs and takes shelter of
his
Nanda,
mother.
right? Not because he's scared of thunder, but he wants to glorify Nanda. Right. So that's the mood of Lord Vishnu, Krishna. And then Lord Shiva also has the same mood, that he is always looking at ways to glorify Krishna. So we see that in the Vrikasur pastime. So this is a good segue for me to the pastimes. So Vrikasur pastime is this demon who performed severe austerities, and Lord Shiva said, what do you want? He said, anybody I should put my hand on their head, they should become ashes. And then he starts running after Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is running and he's running. And then Krishna comes and rescues Lord Shiva. Krishna says that Lord Shiva is not sure if he is actually giving you this benediction. You try it out, and he puts his hand on his head, and he becomes ashes. So this is Lord Shiva glorifying Krishna, because if Lord Shiva can give the benediction, then he can take the benediction away also. He would not have to run away from Vrikasur. He has no fear of demons like Vrikasur. But he's running away because that is giving him an opportunity to glorify Lord Vishnu. And also he is demonstrating the materialistic mentality, because Lord Shiva is given the most difficult job by Krishna. So Krishna himself, he takes a very easy job. He says, I'm in charge of people in the mode of goodness. So Satogun, people come to me. Now Tamogun, says Lord Shiva. So people who are drunkards, people who are meat eaters, into intoxication, he says, there's a special class going on for you, and the instructor there is Lord Shiva. So sometimes it's said that the mercy of Lord Shiva exceeds the mercy of Krishna by many, many folds. Because Krishna says, okay, now you have given up your bad habits, you're in good shape, now come to my class. But before that, go to Lord Shiva. So the Bhoot and Pishach, the demons, the Rakshas, they're all running after Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is expert. He's expert in taking people like this and elevating them. So it is said that even in Sadashiv Lok, that is what Lord Shiva is doing. Because where is Sadashiv Lok? It is in the impersonal Brahman. Who is there in the impersonal Brahman? The impersonalists, the Brahmavadis, the demons killed by Krishna, the Atmagyanis, they are hanging over there in nothingness. Aham Brahmasmi, Idam Kalau, Idam Brahma. So they're just hanging out there with nothing. And Sadashiv is preaching to them, saying that not only are you not the body, but you are eternal servant of Krishna. So they have advanced to a certain point where they have understood that I am not the body. Atmagyan, I am the soul. But they haven't understood that they are Jivere Swarupoy Krishna Nitya Das. They haven't understood that. So Lord Shiva is giving them that knowledge over there. And he continues to do that in the material world. In order to do that, he gives them something also. It's just like if there are teachers who are teaching classes where students are slow, then they will sometimes pacify them by giving them toys and then teaching them and then say, okay, do this and now this will happen. So that's why Lord Shiva is Ashutosh, is giving them toys, benedictions. Okay, you want this, take this, you want this, take that. But he is guiding them towards Krishna. And he's demonstrating also Krishna's position. So we know the pastime of Moini Murti, right? When the Sagar Manthan was done, at the end of that, the demons, they took hold of the Amrit. And the Devas, they had already been defeated. They were not powerful. So they became morose. Then Krishna appears as Moini Murti. And then as Moini Murti, she tricks the Asuras and gives all the nectar to the Devas. So when Lord Shiva heard about this pastime, and he was like, I haven't seen that form of Krishna. So he goes to Krishna and he says, show me your form as Moini Murti. And Krishna says, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Show me the form of Moini Murti. Are you absolutely sure? Yes, 200%. So then Krishna shows his form as Moini Murti. And Krishna's Moini Murti is so beautiful. So what happens next? Lord Shiva starts running after Moini Murti. And when Moini Murti is being pursued by Lord Shiva, she deliberately goes to all the places where there are upasakas of Lord Shiva. And until the point where Lord Shiva, he discharges semen. Now, right next to Lord Shiva is Gauri, Parvati Devi. And Gauri is the most beautiful person in this material world. Nobody is more beautiful than Gauri. Lord Shiva is not at all embarrassed. So as a husband, you can imagine, you have your wife standing next to you, you were running after another woman, now you're back. So it's some embarrassment. Lord Shiva is not at all embarrassed. So he says to her, look at the glories of my Lord. Only he can make this happen. So as the husband, he is the predominator of Mahamaya. He can never be controlled by Mahamaya. So Parvati Devi, she is the most chaste wife. She is always under the control of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva can never be affected by Mahamaya. But he was still running after Mohini Murti. Why? Not because of Mahamaya, because of Yogamaya. And he said that this shows to those rascals who are following me for material gains, this shows to them that much better than all these material gains is following in the footsteps of the Vaishnavas. So taking personal, somebody would say that one can imagine when Lord Shiva was given this service, Lord Shiva would say that, but this is not going to show me in a good light. Can we modify this service somehow? Not Lord Shiva. He has no regard for any personal ego, personal pride, personal fame. He says, if this helps in the preaching moment, so be it. And he does that. We see that pastime of in the Swayamvar of Sita Devi. So the bow that was there, whose bow was it? It was the bow of Lord Shiva. And everybody is coming to pick it up and trying and failing. Lord Vishnu comes and picks it up and breaks it. Right. So what is Lord Shiva? He is false ego. He represents false ego. So on our own, we can never break. This weight of false ego, we can never break. So who could have picked up that bow? Lord Shiva could have picked it up because it's his bow. In fact, he had picked it up. When Vishwakarma had made the bows, there were two bows. One was given to Lord Vishnu, one was given to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva had picked it up and he was using it to fight the demons. And then he gave it to his devotees, and then it came to Maharaj Janak, and that's how it came into the family of Sita Devi. So he's effortlessly picking it up, and Lord Vishnu, he's effortlessly picking it up. So this burden of ahankar, if he surrendered to Lord Shiva as a devotee of Lord Vishnu, that Lord Shiva, please deliver us to Vishnu. This is the mood that the Vaishnavas surrendered. Once in Vrindavan there was a yatra that was being done, and one of the devotees. So there are temples of Lord Shiva in Vrindavan, right? There is Chakleshwar and there is Gopeshwar and Bhuteshwar. So he's Dikpala. He's playing the role of guarding the dham. And in different ways, as Bhuteshwar, he keeps the ghostly mentality away. And as Gopeshwar, according to some acharyas, is the original form of Lord Shiva. So Sadashiv in Sadashiv Lok, in Golok Vrindavan, is Gopi. He's Gopeshwar over there. But the role that he is playing is that at all costs, he wants to guard the bhakti of Vishnu. He wants the devotees to take to Vaishnav devotion, and he wants to glorify. He wants to glorify Krishna at all points of time. So Lord Shiva also appears in Chaitanya Leela. So in one of the Navadvips is one of the 9 islands is called Simanta Dweep. So Simanta Dweep is So the Matajis, they have a part in their hair where they, in India, when they get married, they put vermilion over there. So that is Simanta. And the pastime is that once Parvati Devi came and she saw Lord Shiva in ecstasy, and he was dancing and he was happy. And she said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I'm chanting Krishna's name." So Parvati Devi, there are few versions of this pastime. In the interest of time, I'm telling the more popular version. So Lord Parvati said that, "Okay, I'll also chant." So she chanted, but she could not feel the same ecstasy. So she started complaining. She said, "You're hiding something from me." I said, "No, I'm not hiding anything from you. You just chant." She chanted again. She said, "I can't feel it." So she started getting upset at her husband that this is very unfair. That you're tasting something and I'm your wife, I'm your Ardhangni, you have to taste it along with me. So then Lord Shiva said, you go to Navdvip. There you worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the proprietor of the holy name. He will give you access to the sweetness. So she went to Simanta Dvip, she worshipped Lord Gauranga, and then taking the dust of the dham, she put it on her forehead. So that's why it got the name Simanta Dvipa. Another time when Parvati Devi had a disagreement with Lord Shiva was during the pastimes of Lord Ram. That when Lord Ram was in the jungle and Sita Devi was lost, and then Lord Ram was frantic, and everywhere he was saying, "Where is Sita? Where is Sita?" And then Parvati, she was Sati at the time. Sati, she turns to Shiva and she says that you keep telling me that he is Vishnu. He doesn't look like Vishnu. He's like crying like an ordinary person. And then Lord Shiva says, "Just trust me. He's Vishnu." He said, "Okay." And then she still observed that he's still lamenting and he's asking the trees where Sita Devi is. He's asking animals. So she said, "I don't think so." So what does Parvati Devi do? She assumes the form of Sita Devi. And she goes and she stands in front of Lord Ram. So Lord Ram sees her and then she says, "Parvati, what are you doing over here?" And Parvati Devi, she immediately understands. So she says that I am Mahamaya. There is nobody in this world who I cannot bewilder. So this person has definitely got to be somebody who is beyond my scope. He is not my husband, so he has to be Lord Vishnu. So then Radha Govind Maharaj says that he explains this in a very funny way. That then Parvati Devi quietly goes back to where Lord Shiva is. So Lord Shiva looks at her and says, "Where have you been?" She said, "No, I just went out for a walk. I'm just back." She said, "Really? Nothing else happened?" She said, No, nothing else happened." So, "Are you sure?" So then Parvati Devi understood that Lord Shiva knows everything. So she said that this is what happened, and I went there. So then the pastime from here, I guess it takes a more sober note that according to certain scriptures, Lord Shiva refuses to accept her back, saying that because when Lord Ram saw Parvati Devi, he actually gives obeisances to her. And he says, "Mother Parvati, what are you doing? Mother Sati, what are you doing here?" He says, so Lord Shiva says that Lord Ram is my worshipable Lord. He has called you mother. You can't be my wife anymore. So that's after that Sati Devi, she gives up her body and then she comes back as Parvati. But the pastime essentially talks about Lord Shiva's regard for Lord Krishna. In the Navadvip, there is also the Hamsavahan Shiva temple, and this is a very sweet pastime that once Sutta Goswami, he sat down to talk about the glories of Mahaprabhu. This is because Mahaprabhu is eternal, so this is way back in Satyug when Sutta Goswami sat down and decided to talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Shiva came to know about it, and he said, I have to go there. I have to immediately listen to this. So he got on Nandi and he started traveling. So there is Shiva Lok, then there is Brahma Lok. So he's traveling, and then Nandi bull is very strong but not very fast. So by the time he reaches Brahma Lok, Lord Shiva is worried. He says, Nandi is going so slow. By the time I come, the Katha might get over. So he stops by Brahma Lok. And he says, you give me your swan. Your swan travels faster. So Lord Shiva on swan, he comes, and then he comes to the satsang, and then he relishes the katha of Mahaprabhu. When he's going back, he begins to feel so much separation from Mahaprabhu that his body begins to burn up. And in order to cool his body, he actually lies on the back of the swan. So there is a temple in Mayadweep, this Hamsavahan temple, where there is this form of Lord Shiva on Hamsa. Lord Shiva is generally on Nandi, on Hamsa, on the back of Hamsa. And the deity over there is so hot that throughout the year, they keep the deity underwater. And so there is the Alakananda Kunda over there. So they keep the deity underwater throughout the year. Only for 3 days in a year, in the month of Chaitra, the deity comes out. And then there are literally hundreds and thousands of people who come and take darshan. And even when the deity is out, they're constantly pouring water because the body of the deity is burning. The deity also has this special quality that it is said, I haven't visited there, but it is said that if you make a desire and throw a flower at the deity, if the desire comes true, the deity will throw the flower back at you. So something that was told to me over there. So I'll conclude over here. So overall, our understanding of Shiva Tattva is that whether he's as Vishnu, whether he's as Shakti, whether he's as Jiva, his main motivation is service. And he's servicing, to serve Lord Vishnu, he's serving the Jivas. He's taking on the most difficult roles, the roles that nobody else wants to take. So when Krishna wanted to create confusion in the heart of the atheists, who does he turn to? Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva comes as Shripad Shankaracharya. And then he gives all this philosophy, that Tattvamasi, Narayano Asmi, all that stuff. He tells that you are God, you are Brahman, there is no form of God. And the reason he does it is because he wants to distill. He wants to stop that commingling. Because if the philosophies are distinct, the followers of the philosophy are distinct. So like we are neophytes, but right at the beginning, Prabhupada tells us that avoid the followers of Shripad Shankaracharya. So now we know. If that was not there, then they would be commingling with us. So you would be sitting, one class would be by a person who comes and says that you are Brahma and you can become God and God can become you. Other class would be with a person saying you have to serve God. Then depending on what our mentality is, we would pick something from here, something from there. But now Lord Shiva is a service, what he has done? He has taken all the people with this mentality and said that there is another temple for you. You don't come to the Hare Krishna temple, there's another temple for you. You go over there, different classes are being given. But it's protecting us because our bhakti is weak. Our conviction is weak. And really speaking, I personally read a lot of Mayavad philosophy before I came to Krishna consciousness. Mayavad philosophy is very attractive. right? Because as Jivas, why did we come to this material world? Because we wanted to be Krishna. Now, Sri Shankaracharya is saying, actually, you're God. So it's resonating with our convoluted mentality. Somebody goes to prison for committing a crime, and then the warden over there is saying that this is the best thing you can do. Crime is the way to greatness. So what will that prisoner do? He'll say, I'll go to that prison where the warden is supporting me. So Lord Shiva, he takes this difficult service. It is not something that makes him happy, but he takes that service as the service to Vishnu. So if we meditate on Lord Shiva in this way, as one who is very kind, very, very, very merciful, very exalted, who embodies the mood of service, who puts everything ahead of himself. If I can help the jivas, let me go to the graveyards and help them over there. If I can help Krishna, let me come as an atheist and help him there. So if we embody that mood in our service to some extent, Lord Shiva is Lord Shiva, we can never be that, but to some extent, then that's how we can also make our own spiritual advancements. Okay, so I'll stop here. There is a lot to talk about Lord Shiva because his glories with respect to Lord Vishnu are constantly expanding, but I'll stop here and see if we have any further comments or discussions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, Shri Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the detailed explanation, Prabhuji. I still have a lot of confusion. One thing is we have Shadda Shiva, and then we have Brahma who's creating the Rudras. And then you also said that Shiva is creating with the union with the Maya Devi. So I'm really difficult to understand this three concepts because Prabhuji, Brahma is also creating Shiva. And but Shiva is the permanent reason of all creation because he is uniting with Maya Devi, and there is also Sadashiva. Can you please explain on these three, Prabhuji? It's really, thank you very much.
So Sadashiv, from the perspective of Shiva Tattva, we can consider Sadashiv to be the origin. So he is an expansion of Sankarshan. Sankarshan expands into Mahavishnu and Sadashiv, Vishnu Tattva. There he is an abode in spiritual world. Now, when Sadashiv descends to this material world as the glance of Lord Mahavishnu, then we can call him Shambhu. Right. So he is what we consider as Vishwanath, as the one from whom the whole, not just the universe, but the whole material creation is coming. Because we are looking at Pradhan at that time. Pradhan is the concentrated form of the entire material, the Ekapad, the whole material creation. So he, along with his Shakti, is the source of all the material creation. Now, when the material creation in a consolidated way becomes distinguished, then these individual universes are coming. Millions of universes are coming from that original Pradhan. So Lord Vishnu is entering into each of the universe as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And the same Shambhu is entering into each of this universe as Lord Shiva, who is still Shiva Tattva. He's still Shakti. When Brahma comes, then from the anger of Brahma comes the Rudras, who are generally considered as Jiva Tattva. Sometimes as I explained, the Rudras may also be Shakti Tattvas, but generally they are Jiva Tattvas. So all these together are considered to be Shiva Tattva. And that's why it's confusing, because at one end you have Vishnu Tattva, at the other end you have Jiva Tattva, you have Shakti Tattva in between. So all the Tattvas are there. So consolidated. So Lord Krishna says, okay, I'll give you a separate category because you're all over the place. You are Shiva Tattva. So that's how the personalities are there. But as I mentioned, the one thing unifying that you see is that whatever tattva he takes, he's doing it in one way or the other to do service. So, when the king creates the prison, nobody really wants to be the warden, right? Because everybody wants to be in charge of the Ministry of Home or the Ministry of Sports or Ministry of Family Welfare. Lord Shiva says, okay, I'll take care. That's why as Shambhu, he is the person who is carrying the glance of Lord Mahavishnu, who is coming in contact with Mahadevi. Lord Vishnu says, I'm not going to come in contact with the modes. Not for me. So Shiva says, okay, you don't come in contact with the modes, I will come in contact with the modes. So as a service, he takes the desire, the time, the false ego, all that he takes that nobody else wants, and he takes it and he enters into the material world. Mostly as a service to us. Because if ahankar was not there, how would we enjoy in this material world? We would not be able to enjoy. So what would be the position for souls like us? We are not able to enjoy with Krishna, and we are not able to enjoy elsewhere. So Lord Shiva says, let me make some arrangements for them. So then he gives us ahankar. That aham bhogi, aham karta. That I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. All that is ahankar. That's the most subtle form of material existence. Does that help, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for the question.
Prabhuji, thank you very much for describing this most difficult tattva in such a nice way and also with the pastimes. So my question is that what is the function of this Lord Shiva when he is as a Shakti Tattva, Shakti Tattva as an expansion of Garbhodakshay Vishnu and as the Rudra, which is Jiva Tattva. So there must be some different functions of these two when in the particular universe.
You're right. There are not. So as I mentioned that when the process of creation happens, then there is one stage that happens pre-Brahma and there is one stage that happens post-Brahma. So post-Brahma, he's doing the creation, Visarga. He's taking care of things. But before Brahma can do creation, there are a lot of things that need to be in place, right? Third canto, 26th chapter, second canto, 5th chapter, a lot of things need to be in place. So in order to make that happen, so Garbhodaksha Vishnu creates Hiranyagarbha Brahma. So he creates another Brahma, who is also the Shakti Tattva Brahma, not the Chaturmukhi Brahma. So he creates Lord Shiva. He does not create, they expand through him, they're eternal. So Lord Shiva appears. So they are, Rampa Maharaj explains them as prototypes. So before they can start stamping out, different jivas, each of us have 5 kinds of avidyas, we have all the ahankar. So before they start stamping out, then the dies have to be made. The assembly line has to be in place. And then what Brahma does is that he runs the assembly line. He basically then starts pouring the mold and pushing the buttons. But all that has to be in place. This is done by the Adi Devas. So Lord Brahma, who's the Adi Brahma is called Hiranyagarbha. So he is taking care of some part of the creation. Lord Shiva is taking care of some part of the creation. It does not explain in great details what specifically they do, but notionally, that's what the understanding is.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you. It's very clear by your explaining like that. I don't know how will I remember it, but thank you so much.
Okay, so we are a little over time. I'll turn it over to Sarang Prabhu. Akshay Prabhu, you had something?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam, All Guru and Gauranga. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for helping set the mood right to approach Lord Shiva. I had two quick questions, but I'm not sure if we are running out of time, Prabhuji. Can I?
No, it's okay. We don't have a constraint on time. Can except
Okay.
if Prabhu has something.
No, I'm okay. Well,
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you mentioned that the power of Sadashiv or Lord Shiva is very merciful, or very, very potent or powerful. The glance of him. So, is there any significance of his third eye, or there's that pastime that we know of Lord Brahma going to visit Lord Krishna, and then he finds out that there's not just one Lord Brahma, but there are so many Lord Brahmas out there. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's also mentioned that along with Lord Brahma, there were so many Lord Shivas also, and each one of them had multiple eyes. So, is there something to do with the glance aspect of his?
not that I'm aware of. The only thing I've read about it is that with his right eye, Lord Shiva, he glances at people in the mode of goodness. With his left eye, the mode of passion, and the third eye, the ones in Tamoguna. There.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I've heard. So Lord Shiva is commonly worshipped as Panchamukhi. He has 5 heads and three eyes. In India, at least, commonly it is said that Lord Shiva, when he destroys, then he opens the third eye. I haven't read that specifically. I grew up with that understanding. I'm not sure where it came up with, but the understanding was that when Lord Shiva opens his third eye, then the destruction of the universe takes place, or fire comes, or whatever it is. But this is the only thing that I've heard, that goodness, passion, and third eye is for ignorance. Yeah. I was thinking if I heard anything else. I can't recollect offhand.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, what is the pastime of Gita Mahatmya? Like, how did that come into place?
So Gauri Shankar, they are considered to be the ideal couple. Lord Shiva is very, very affectionate to his wife, and his wife is very affectionate to Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is always with Parvati. Even though, interestingly, Gauri is, so Lord Shiva and Gauri, they don't have a child, right? Because Kartikeya is born from Lord Shiva by himself. Ganesh is born from Gauri by herself. But they exemplify. That's why in Indian culture, sometimes unmarried men and women, they worship Gauri Shankar. That the wife say, "May I have a husband like Lord Shiva," and the husband says, "May I have a wife like Parvati Devi." The real reason that they're so affectionate is because Lord Shiva, he takes the position of guru of Parvati. He's not attracted to her beauty. She's, as I mentioned, she's the most beautiful woman. Lord Shiva is not attracted to that, but he's very attracted to her submissive mentality. He takes the position of guru. So many scriptures are conversations between Shiva and Parvati. Especially in the Padma Purana Uttarakhand, you see so many conversations that happen. They're conversations between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi. So Parvati Devi asks all these questions, that who is the most worshipable personality? What is the best scripture to read? And in one of the Bhagavatam Kathas, it's mentioned that Sukadev Goswami actually heard Bhagavatam between Shiva and Parvati. That Parvati Devi asked that which is the most transcendental scripture. Lord Shiva says, "Okay, I will speak to you." And then he started speaking the Bhagavatam. there, and Parvati Devi went off to sleep. So Sukha was there as a parrot. So the parrots have the ability to mimic voices. So in the voice of Parvati Devi, he kept saying, yes, 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 very good, because he was so interested in hearing. So at some point, Lord Shiva turned back and saw Parvati Devi was sleeping, and the parrot was making all these noises. So he got very upset. So he took out his trishul and he started chasing the parrot. So then what did Sukha do? He entered in the womb of the wife of Srila Vyasadeva. So Lord Shiva came, he was still interested in killing Sukadev. So Vyasadeva says, you can't kill him now. He is in Badrika ashram. This is the abode of Lord Vishnu. He's a devotee now. He has heard the Bhagavatam from you. By the potency of hearing Bhagavatam, he has become a devotee. Would you like to kill a devotee? Lord Shiva said, no, I don't really want to kill a devotee. So Lord Shiva went away. One of the Puranic stories. In the Puranas, you have many, many pastimes describing the same things. Sometimes, as Maharaj says, they are kalpabhedas. So they are in the scriptures, so they are fine. They are correct. But kalpabhedas mean they happen in different days of Brahma. And that's the understanding. But the Gita Mahatma is part of Padma Puran. It's a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi, where Lord Shiva is instructing Parvati Devi that Ekam Shastram, Devi Ki Putra Gitam, that if you have to read one scripture, then read only the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice questions.
Any other question or comment? I think Lalita had a question, no?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisances. Oh, Guru Srila Prabhupada. I just had a quick question, Prabhu. When people here people are worshipping Shivji here, so do they have this conception of Sadashiv, or just worshipping, how do you say? They are not worshipping Ishan as such. They are worshipping
Rudra.
No, they are worshipping Shambhu, maybe, or Rudras.
Or Shankar.
Yeah.
The concept of Sadashiv is more amongst Vaishnavas.
Vaishnava. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if they are worshipping, they are not going to go to the abode of Sadashiv. No. Because they are worshipping him.
Yeah. They're worshipping him with material desires. So they'll go to Mahakal Loka if they are perfect. I mean, a lot of Shiva worshippers, they're rascals. They say that, will drink liquor and take intoxication. So they're not really worshipping. They're just
Actually, they don't have the understanding of this concept.
Yeah, they don't even understand the manifest form of Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Right? They don't even understand that. But people who sincerely worshipping the Rudras, they will go to the Shiva Lok, Mahakal Lok.
Okay.
They, depending on the propensity and desires, they might make progress.
Yes.
So Lord Shiva, but he's constantly. That's why he's followed by all these Bhut and Pishach, because he's helping them get a material body, so that they can make progress. Because in a subtle form, they're suffering all the time. So they have all these desires, but there's nothing they can do about it.
Yes. I'm asking this question because I had this feeling when we came to Krishna consciousness. I said, I don't know, because if devotees are worshipping the Guru as such, how can they not worship? Because I have this special feeling for Lord Shiva. I don't know. Even still, it's there. So how can they not worship Lord Shiva? I already had this question. I always argue with Sangha Prabhu. I was saying, no, something is very wrong. In the beginning, I was just always arguing with him. No, you people, I don't know what is the problem. In worshipping Lord Shiva, Yeah.
To a great extent, it's there to protect us, because in Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas, the Acharyas that did that deliberately, because it's easy to get confused also.
Yes.
Right. So if they started encouraging that Lord Shiva is Ishan, he's Lord Vishnu, then everybody will have a Shivling in their house.
Yes.
And they will start worshipping Lord Shiva, and they will get diverted. Again, there's nothing wrong in worship Shivlinga, but there is wrong in worshipping him in that context. Right. So So in order to that's why we also see that like in the Isopnishads, right, that mantra says that those who worship the horrible and ghastly form of the demigods are condemned. So this is Isopnishads. Now the demigods, now poor things, they're devotees of the Lord, they're being condemned like this. The horrible and ghastly form of the demigods. They don't have a horrible and ghastly form. They're strongly in the mode of goodness, devotees. But the Upanishads, they're doing that to protect the people from this materialistic mentality.
Yes.
Because if they started talking about the subtle nuances, that yes, you can worship Indra, but worship him as a devotee of Krishna. And then they say Indra doing all these things of, trying to sleep with other rishis, women, wives, and trying to cheat people. And they say, oh, maybe, I can be Indra. I can be like him. I can, be passionate about things, etc. So they will not look at the bigger picture about how Indra is a devotee of Krishna, how he's constantly performing yagyas to priests. In Bhagavatamrita, there is glorification of Indra. Gopakumar becomes Indra, and then you see that what is Indra doing all the time? He's worshiping Krishna. They'll forget all about that. They will basically go after the materialistic aspect. So it's mostly for our protection that it is made, but that's why it's also important that we be aware of the tattvas, but we also protect our devotion, understanding that it's still sapling. So good to have strong boundaries. When it becomes a tree, then you can take away. Like if you do gardening, right? So when you plant a seed, you put those things around it until that sapling is strong. Then you can take it out. So we are weak saplings right now. We need all that protection, and then later on we can dispense with it. So Prabhupada explained it to us philosophically so that we are not confused, but in practice, he was very firm that worship Krishna only.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a quick comment. We understood also Dhruva Samuni and Hanuman is an expansion of Lord Shiva.
Yes. Ashwathama, Durvasha Muni, Lord Hanuman, and I think these are the three prominent expansions.
And Advaita Acharya is like a mix of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva.
Sadashiva, right.
Hare Krishna, Bhayahari Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada, This Shakti. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. I have a question, Prabhu. What is this concept of Adi Yogi that I'm not sure if you're aware of? The Isha Foundation, they have something called Adi Yogi, and some people say Lord Shiva is the one who created this yoga meditation something. I mean, have you heard of anything?
Sorry, Prabhu, not aware of that.
Okay. I mean, they are also
Isha Foundation is Sadguru.
Yeah, Sadguru. So they also worship Lord Shiva, but they call him Adi Yogi. So I'm not aware like what's the concept.
Oh no, I mean Lord Shiva, one of his names may be Adi Yogi. I'm not aware of it, but he is definitely very advanced in mystic yoga. Maybe one of his name is Adi Yogi, but I'm not familiar with their. I've heard of Sadguru, of course, but I'm not very familiar with their philosophy or what they talk about. I see him in talking to college students and in different kinds of forums. I've seen him. He does not speak very philosophically, or maybe that's the forums I've seen him. Maybe he's philosophical, but he tends to speak from a very very contemporary aspect. Like he'll give real life examples and try to explain things to students. I mean, that's the only. I have a small sample size. I may be extrapolating, but that's the only few times somebody sent me his videos. I've seen it.
Some of my friends, they are saying like Lord Shiva is the one who actually created this meditation thing. So I'm not really sure. So I'm just trying to relate. That's why they call him Adi Yogi or something. Just trying to get.
Well, even if he created, he created by the empowerment of Krishna, because so many things are being recreated. Like Brahma created the universe, and Dattatreya, he gave some knowledge. Kapila Muni, he gave some knowledge. Now, Dattatreya and Kapila, of course, are Lord Vishnu, but ultimately, whatever we see is that they have been empowered to do that. So even if Lord Shiva created the yoga system, then who empowered him to create it? Where did he get the knowledge to create it? So all the source is the same. Like you, if you teach me something and I go and teach somebody else, and that person teaches somebody else, then maybe over time they will forget that Shakti Prabhu was the one who was teaching. But then that's where we turn to the scriptures. The scriptures gives us the correct knowledge. That Radhe Radhe Govinda Sarva Karan Karana. That everything, primary, secondary, tertiary, all the causes are Sarva Karan Karana. They're all coming from Lord Krishna.
Okay, just one last question, Prabhu. So because we are following ISKCON and we are following the scriptures, many of my friends say, okay, because you're praying Krishna, you say Krishna is the one, right? But most of, like in India, most of the people pray to Lord Shiva. So how do we answer these type of questions? Like,
couple of ways. One is that we don't say Krishna is God because we are praying to him, but we pray to him because he is God. The scriptures tell us. So when we read the scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Upanishads, they're telling us that Krishna is God. That's why we pray to him. Now they're also establishing the positions of Durga Devi, Lord Shiva, Brahma, etc. So we are not guided by our conceptions. We are guided by the Shastra Chakshu. So if the Shastras had told us that Lord Shiva is the personality of Godhead, we would have worshipped Lord Shiva. But the Shastra tells us that Krishna is the personality of Godhead and Lord Shiva is his dear associate. That's how we worship. Yeah. So it's where we take shelter, not our mind, but the scriptures.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, there's a question in the chat. You want me to read it or?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisance, Prabhuji. Could you please explain when and how Lord Shiva destroyed the universe? Does it happen when the night of Lord Brahma comes, or after Lord Brahma leave his 100 years, or at some other time?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. So in the Bhagavatam, we know that there are different kinds of destructions that are described. Lord Shiva is in charge of them. So there is one kind of destruction that is called naimitic. It is happening all the time. So as we speak, we are being destroyed. And that is Lord Shiva in the form of time, Kala. So as form of Kal, he is continuously destroying us. Then there are partial destructions that are happening. And Lord Shiva in different forms, he is in charge of the destructions. So there's a destruction that happens at the end of the day of Brahma. So there it is mentioned that how this fire of destruction, it emanates from the mouth of Anantashesh. And then that fire, it empowers or it invigorates the Rudras. And then the Rudras, they set about the process of destruction. So when the Rudras were first created, because their mentality is destructive, they started destroying everything. And then Brahma said, wait a minute, I've just started the process of creation and you have already started the process of destruction. Can't go together. So then he said that you perform austerities. And when the time is right, then you will use the powers of austerity to destroy. So at the end of the day of Brahma, at the end of the life of Brahma, the Rudras, they manifest this power, and they destroy, whether as fire or as water or as different elements. They manifest this destructive ability. So Lord Shiva is destroying in all ways. He's destroying at every moment. He is destroying at the times of the allocated destruction. He is destroying at the time of complete destruction. But originally, Lord Shiva is destroying our false ego. That's his original form of destruction. That if we submit to Lord Shiva as a true devotee, then we see another form of Lord Shiva as a destroyer. That he destroys our tamas. He destroys ahankar. That is another form of his destruction that he manifests.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, I think there's no more question. Okay, actually this question was from Gayatri, and she said thank you. And thank you, Prabhu, for this wonderful class. And it was really enlivening to everybody. And now we know our position and who is destroying our ahankar. We have to pray to Lord Shiva also to help us in this. Who also is a worshipper of Anantashesh or Sankarshan, and who is also Balaram in a way, and Adi Guru. And thank you so much for all this, Prabhu. And as we say, in the line of Guru, there's a different type of Guru. You know, we have our initiating Guru, we have our Shiksha Guru, we have the Guru that introduces to Krishna. I mean, we pray for you too, and to Lord Shiva to keep you well, so that you continue to destroy our ahankar too.
Haribo! Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll end here. Vancha kalpatarupayasya kripa sindhu vyayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Natpuri Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Bhayahari Prabhu
Hare
ki
Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Prabhu for
Very
wonderful.
enlivening.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Amazing.
Hari
Thank you.
Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hari Bol.
Haribo.
Where is Meera?